Today, today we are continuing with our first chapter of PMI-PBA, and we left off yesterday on this topic, that is topic 1.7, definition of requirements. So we are just left with the definition of requirements and the content of each of the domains.
सॉरी सर, आपकी आवाज
नहीं आ रही? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? So I was today we are covering the definition of requirement first. It is pretty simple. It's not that very difficult, but we'll look at it from the definition point of view, and as the standard explains it, requirement is a condition or capability that is required to be present in a product, service, or result to satisfy a contract or other formally imposed specification. So this could be each and every need of the customer, which is defined in the agreement or contract which we had with him, and the shape, the product, service, or result, whatever is the output or the deliverable of the project, that is defined here. So this is just the requirement of the deliverable, and it does not include how are we going to make it, who is going to make it. All these things are not included in the requirement. Requirement simply says what is needed. So what condition or capability should be satisfied, as if we can say that the product, service, or result is according to the customer needs and requirements. So a requirement represents something that can be met by a product or service and can address a need of the business, person, or a group of people, and by this we mean the customer. A requirement should be independent of the design of the solution that addresses it. As I said, it does not matter how this requirement is fulfilled. What method did you use? How did you design the solution? But ultimately the requirement has to be fulfilled. That is basically what is needed by the customer. The customer gave you a requirement for the deliverable, and that requirement needs to be fulfilled. Now this is another question, that project manager, how he decides on the most optimal, most effective, and most efficient manner in which he can do it. But as far as the requirement itself is concerned, that does not dictate a solution. A requirement may explain a feature that is to be met by a product or software component. You see, we said it is a product, service, or result. If it is only a product, then it was pretty simple that there are certain specifications which have to be met, and then the product will be acceptable. Now, this product could have certain features. Maybe there is a software program which should perform a particular function or feature. So all the functions and features are basically the requirements, or you can say that functions and features of a product or service or result, they explain the requirement. You might have heard about agile and user stories and all those things. Actually, those are basically the requirements. You are trying to pose the requirement into a scenario. You create personas, you create stories, unrefined and refined stories. All these are just efforts to explain the requirement. When a specific type of requirement is under discussion, there are many types of requirements. When you are addressing a specific type of requirement, you can use a term to precede the word requirement, and that could be the stakeholder requirement or the business requirement or the solution requirement. So this is the definition of requirement. Now we have to see what are the various types of these requirements and who is responsible. So the first question is, who has the responsibility for these requirements? Now again, what does the guide say? It says responsibility should be assigned to such a resource that have sufficient business subject matter expertise and decision-making authority. Now the person who is held responsible for this product, for this requirement, must know what he is doing or must have subject matter expertise about that thing, and moreover he should also have decision making authority as if he can execute that. So this is the general definition, who is responsible. Now let's explain it a little more. The role with responsibility to conduct the business analysis may depend upon the project lifecycle. Now, as we were discussing earlier, between the role of project manager and business analyst, it all depends what kind of organization you are from, and what is the project life cycle they are using, and what is their organizational hierarchy. So sometimes project manager will have to fulfill the requirements, and he has to act as a business analyst. Sometimes, as I said, the business analyst takes on the role of project manager, and in some organizations it would be different person for business analysis and a different person for project management. So it should be assigned to resources with sufficient business analysis skills and expertise. Even if it is to be done by the project manager, in that case, he should have sufficient business analysis skills and expertise, which is generally lacking in project managers. When you expect a project manager to do the business analysis or to collect the requirements, then probably he is not well equipped to do that. But naturally, if the project manager has those skills, he can perform his responsibilities better. Now, the basic role of the project manager here is that he is accountable for ensuring that the requirements related work is accounted for. What does that mean? All the work which will be done in the project should be to fulfill the requirements. This is what your scope is. You just have to do that work which is required to be done to fulfill the requirement, and no extra work can be included into it. That extra work which is not contributing towards the requirements would be out of scope, and only that work is in scope that fulfills the requirement related work. So no ornamental or cosmetics. We don't have to, just add few more activities for the cosmetic sense only. Every work which is to be done by the project manager has to be in scope, and anything which is in scope is the requirements related work. And for all that work, project manager is held accountable. And this is explained, or this is done in the project management plan. The responsibility, the accountability is defined in the project management plan, and the requirements related activities are performed in such a way that the job is done on time, within budget, and can also deliver the value. Yes, Adil?
All right, sir. See, the requirement has been gathered by the business analyst.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So why project manager is accountable for requirement-related work?
Work. You see, business analyst is responsible for the requirement gathering and getting it done. But the work which is involved in fulfilling those requirements to creating the product according to those functions and features is the responsibility of project manager. Rather, he is accountable for that work. The
So if there
yes,
if there is any incomplete requirement done by the business analyst, all right, and it has been handed over to the project manager, and project manager start working on it, and half of the way project it declares that the requirement gathering performed was incomplete. So all the responsibility will lie with the business analyst, not with the project manager, right?
you see, that is exactly why when you as a project manager, you are accepting the responsibility, the accountability, you do your own requirement collection, and then you coordinate and interact and collaborate with the business analyst. And if you feel that, because you have to do the job as a project manager, so if you feel that the requirement explained is not correct, or it does not represent the need, in that case you will have to highlight it to the business analyst as if he can correct it. And naturally, some business analysis skills are definitely required by the project manager, and he will be collecting the requirements in his own sphere. And but the purpose for the project manager of collecting and analyzing those requirements is just to see whether it is doable or not. You see, business analysts may have picked up a job, may have picked up requirements which from the project manager's perspective are not doable. That is exactly why we create the scope statement. Scope statement is a commitment given by the project manager that this job is doable and I am capable enough to do it and I know how to do it. So before the scope statement is created, you have collected the requirements, you have determined the product scope, you have determined the project scope, and only then will you be able to claim that this can be done or this cannot be done. Yes?
Sir, so if project manager has to do the requirement gathering, high level requirement gathering, then don't you feel that it's an overlap work? One work has been done by business analyst and the same work has been done by the project manager?
Not exactly, not exactly. You see, it is always better to have two minds working on one thing. One person has looked at the thing from another perspective. You know, in agile, the role of product owner, product owner looks at the things from the perspective of the customer. He is the voice of the customer. So he conceives all the requirements as the customer demands. And naturally, he is doing the feasibility, he is doing a lot many things from his point of view and from the organizational point of view, that my organization can handle this job or not. If he thinks that his organization can handle it and this job is feasible, only then he accepts those requirements. Now, when it comes to the project manager, what if the project manager does not have the necessary expertise to do this work? So when I say scope statement is a commitment by the project manager, here he gives, he has to analyze and give assurance on 2 points. Number one, the job assigned to me is doable. That means only after having a review of all the requirements. When we say collect requirements for project manager, that is not all the requirements he has to do from a whatever input he has got, he will start with those inputs and he will like confirm those requirements. He will get in touch with the stakeholders and clarify on those requirements where he has doubt. You see, when you have to do a job, you would like to understand the requirements yourself. So just imagine the project manager is trying to understand the requirements, and in that process he may come up with some minute details which may have been overlooked by the business analyst, and then he can get back in touch with the business analyst and ask him and highlight that factor to him and ask him if this requirement is to be done that way or this way. So both ways, stakeholder is anyways involved with the project manager also and the business analyst also. Therefore, we said earlier that business manager, business analyst and project manager have to be on the same page. They must be collaborating. If project manager feels this cannot be done, that is a problem. In that case, either business analyst study was wrong or the project manager has done something wrong. Both ways, if project manager is misconceiving something, business analyst will satisfy him, convince him, and project manager will correct himself. If business analyst has missed out something and it is now highlighted by the project manager, business analyst will coordinate and collaborate with him and correct the requirements. So the basic responsibility of the requirements remain with the business analyst, but fulfilling those requirements is the job of the project manager. So when he thinks about fulfilling the requirements, he has to see how this can be done. Now is the matter. No, initially the definition of requirement said it does not matter how you do it, but project manager needs to understand how will he do it. So if he can't find a way to do it, if there is no way of doing it, then this requirement is not possible to be completed. So in his scope statement, he gives this assurance that this is doable, and secondly, I am also capable of doing this thing. I have subject matter expertise. I know this job and I am confident I can do it. And not only that, but he also gives his broad approach of addressing the problem. So that means all the work which is required to be done to fulfill those requirements is designed by the project manager, and this can only be designed if the requirements are correct and project manager is also capable of fulfilling those requirements.
Sir, so at what point of time business analyst is accountable?
Business analyst is accountable for the requirements, not the work. He will hand over the final deliverable to the customer, and his job is not finished even after handing over the product to the customer. He is responsible for all future problems till the time the proper transition takes place. Even the project will finish, but this business analyst will keep in coordination with the customer. And as I said, if the project is ongoing, he is responsible for getting it completed or corrected through the project manager. If the project has been complete and the product has been handed over, then this is the problem of the business analyst. If there is something to be amended in the deliverable, that is not the job of project manager anymore, because project has finished. Now it is an organizational problem. If the business analyst thinks that there is some change in requirements and now the product which has been handed over has to be amended or a new version is to be created, he can start a new project further.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so that was for the responsibility, and that was important because we have to clearly differentiate between these two roles and what they can do and what they cannot do. Then are the different types of requirements. These are exactly the same requirements, types of requirements which are given in PMBOK. Requirements are specified for the purpose of clarifying and communicating a business need or required capability. So why did you ask for a requirement? If you are a customer, why did you ask for a requirement? That must be fulfilling some of your business need, or you want to acquire a new capability. You want to be able to do certain thing, and that's why you have created this requirement. So I'll again take the example of a user story. User story uh, portrays the requirement into a small story in which you create a scenario that if Mr. X needs this thing, then he will have this done that way. So some story has to come up that will explain the requirement. That these user stories are basically for this specific purpose of clarifying the requirement and to communicate the requirement, because it is just like you are making something understood to the other person through examples. So user story is a kind of an example, and that is easier to understand, it is easier to clarify and communicate to the other person. So requirements should be specified in such a manner. This practice guide uses the term requirement in the very broad sense. When performing the work of requirement elicitation means collection of the requirement, documentation, and requirements management, it is important to understand the various types of requirements being specified. Yes?
So you have just said a user story is an example of requirement type.
Is a clarification of requirement.
User story is a clarification of requirement.
Yes, it is um, um, by example, you are converting a complex requirement into an understandable story, an understandable example. So every user story represents a requirement.
Okay, so this means what if I try to understand in this way that user story is a tool for requirement
Yes,
elaboration, is it right?
exactly, exactly. This is very right. This is a tool through which you clarify the requirement. Now
Okay.
the question arises, is the stated requirement, is it a business need, a customer need, or a particular stakeholder group need? So You see, there could be many purposes which specific need is being fulfilled by this requirement. To provide clarity and context to the issue, requirements are often categorized by these types, and these types are: we have business requirements, we have stakeholder requirements, we have solution requirements, we have functional requirements, we have non-functional requirements, we have transition requirements. Now, there could be a business need. You see, there always have to be a need behind a requirement. There always have to be a need behind a requirement, either a need or a capability the customer wants to achieve. So if there is a business need, based on that business need, you will develop a business requirement. If there is a stakeholder need, it is not necessary that stakeholder will always be the customer. Stakeholder could be anyone. And if there is a stakeholder need, then that can be translated into a stakeholder requirement. I hope you can understand how a stakeholder can change the way you look at the problem.
Yes, sir.
You see, I'll give you a small example. For example, your customer wants to build you a house. He wants a house to be built. And he has given his requirements that it should have these many rooms and this and that, and the whole of the design and drawing and everything he has given you. And in the construction of the house, the roofs are supposed to have reinforced concrete, meaning steel bars into the concrete. And the design says that you have to use a specific size of these bars. Say that is 1 by 2 inch diameter size. These are the bars you have to use. So this is given in design. This is the business requirement, and this has to be fulfilled. Now, I'm just taking you onward later on in the project. When you have accepted that, you said, okay, this is doable also. Scope statement was even created. But later, when you hired a subcontractor and gave him this design, he simply told you that this size of steel is no more available in market and it will not be available for next 6 months. So if I have to fulfill that requirement, I have to use exactly the same size of steel. I have to wait for 6 months. My subcontractor gives me a solution. He says if we can use 3 by 4 inch dia steel bars, we will have to redesign the placement of steel bars. Their center to center distance will be changed, but you will get the same strength. And naturally, the business requirement did not ask for this, and this is a change. So you will put up this problem in front of the customer through business analyst or without business analyst, and this problem will be changing the requirement. And this business requirement has been changed due to the stakeholder. One of the stakeholders has posed this problem, and that's why the design of the roofs was to be changed or to be redesigned. So you see, these requirements may have clashes in between, and you have to adjust them at any stage. The stages are before the project has started, business analyst is already dealing with these requirements, and if he sees something which is not right, he can negotiate it in the contract. But if it happens in the middle of the project, then also requirements, if they need to be changed, there has to be a contract change control procedure, and contract may have to be renegotiated and redrafted, or some amendment has to be issued to it in light of this change request. So all of these needs have to be taken care of, and the balancing act will continue. Then there could be solution requirements. The solution, what is the solution? I have received the requirement and I look at it that this requirement can be met in these three different ways. Now the solution I have selected restricts my move, and I can only produce the requirement in a different manner. So solution has its own requirements. Solution has its own needs and own requirements which could impact the business requirement or the stakeholder requirements. Similarly, there are some functional requirements and there are some non-functional requirements. Uh, if I can explain it, the functional requirements are the exact dimensions or specifications, whereas non-functional requirements are the qualitative requirements which this function must have. I'll explain each of these things in a while. Then there are transition requirements. Now these transition requirements are, once the thing, the product you are producing, it is produced by the project, how will it be handed over and moved on to the customer? Maybe it has to be handled with a lot of care. Maybe there are specific instructions to move this product to the customer site, to install it and to get it to functionality. So these all would be the transition requirements because these are the needs of the transition. Yes, please.
So basically, I was with you till solution requirements. Then for functional and non-functional, I'm lost. I didn't understand that. The transition requirement which you have explained now, I don't find any good difference between transition requirements and solution requirements.
Okay. Solution is within the project. Project manager has come up with various ways of doing this job, various approaches to do this job, and he has analyzed it. It is done in scope statement. After the project and product scope has been defined, project manager identifies ways of doing, ways of fulfilling these requirements. Those ways are different approaches. You see, you have to deliver a chair. What are the various means and ways you can create this chair? So one way could be that you make it yourself. Another way is you hire a subcontractor and ask him to make the chair. Another way could be you can go to the market and buy a chair. So there could be more than one approaches to fulfill the requirement. But as I said in the definition of requirement, requirement itself is independent of the solution or the approach. So it does not matter for the customer how you made it. He needs the specific specifications, the functions and features which have to be in this chair to be complete, and they must be acceptable to the customer. Now, for example, I have chosen the method of buying it from the market. And naturally, I have chosen this approach, this solution after a lot of deliberation, and this would have been the best approach. Now, this solution dictates that I have to go to the market, and if chair, that chair according to those specifications is available, I will buy it and then I'll deliver it. Once I go to the market, I find that there is a strike there, or for that matter, uh, uh, the chair has to be carried on on a transport, and that transport is not available. So that solution may dictate its own needs. You have to make the transport available. That equipment has to be available in the market, and only then you can fulfill all these steps. So whichever solution you have chosen, that will have its own needs and requirements.
Agreed, sir. I'm clear on this.
And as far as the transition is concerned, transition happens once you have produced the deliverable, and now it is to be transported to the customer and handed over to the customer and installed in the customer premises and put to use. So how are you going to move this equipment to the customer and all that? This all is the transition requirement. Now coming over to the functional and non-functional requirements.
Sir,
Yes.
sorry, sir, transition, it seems to me it's like logistics.
It's not only logistics. It includes logistics. It includes handing, taking over of the item. It includes the installation and making it functional in the operational environment. So all of these things are the requirement. I want this deliverable to be functioning in the customer premises. These are the transition requirements. Normally, transition requirement is not the problem of project manager. Transition requirement usually is the job of the business analyst. But sometimes it is covered under the contract in a way that project manager is made responsible for fulfilling these transition requirements as well. Means that it is part of the project that he has to deliver, install and operate it for certain time. You might have heard about BOT contracts. BOT is build, operate and transfer. So it is not only that you have built the deliverable, but you operate it in the user premises, and then you train them to use it, and then you transfer it to them, and then you can disengage. These are all the transition requirements.
Okay, sir.
Now, functional requirements and non-functional requirements, they will be clarified in a while, but let me just explain this. What what should be the function of the deliverable? What functions should it be able to perform? Maybe you need a table with a smooth uh, surface in teak wood, and it should have a shine of certain kind. It should have a length of certain uh, meters or feet. So all the dimensions, all the functionality of the table is included in the functional requirements. Non-functional requirements are the cosmetics. It is how well something is done. If you say it is a green color, then how green that color is. If you say this is 3 feet long, then is it actually 3 feet long or not? So in a way, you can say that functional requirements are superimposed by the non-functional requirements, which are classically the quality requirements. This is the quality of the product we are talking about. This is the tolerance we are talking about. So these are basically the 6 types of requirements. But once you start doing the project, within the project, you have got 2 more type of requirements. These are the project requirements and the quality requirements. Now, project requirements are like, you see, you must prepare a scope statement. You must prepare a charter. So all those requirements which were not exactly given by the customer or any of the stakeholders or the solution, they are not covered anywhere else. But for smooth functioning of your project, you need to apply a standard. You need to put in use some kind of rules for better project management. So those will be your project requirements. And when you are having this project requirements fulfilled, the quality of the project and the product, this is included in the quality requirements. Now there is a little mismatch. We are saying quality is also included in the non-functional requirements, but in non-functional requirements, it is the quality of the requirements or the product which is expected to be there. On the other hand, the quality of requirement here is the project quality requirements, and within the project quality requirements, what are the various quality features you are going to be checking within. So it is quality control and assurance, both is addressed through the quality requirements. Let me move on and show you each one of these in detail. Business requirements describes the higher level needs of the organization as a whole, such as business issues and opportunities and reasons why a project has been undertaken. So you see, business requirements basically address some business issue or some opportunity, or maybe they want to add a capability to their portfolio. So they have decided that we need this. And based on that need, they have created a business requirement. The stakeholder requirement is the needs of the stakeholders or stakeholder groups, which may or may not be the customer, where the term stakeholder is used broadly to reflect the role of anyone with a material interest in the outcome of an initiative and could include customer, supplier, partner, as well as internal business roles. So if organization is, say, automating their system, there will be some people in the organization who will be negatively impacted by the automation. So these people are the stakeholders. They will lose the job. They will have their own requirements which are not being fulfilled. How do you intend satisfying those stakeholders? Or for that matter, the other stakeholders like your suppliers and customer partners and vendors and all those people, they have also some say in the stakeholder requirements. Solution requirement describes the features, functions, and characteristics of a product, service, or result that will be met, that will meet the business and stakeholder requirement. So solution is designed around the business and stakeholder requirements. But the solution requirements are further grouped into functional and non-functional requirements. So those functional and non-functional we studied, they are basically the solution requirements. Functional requirement describes the behavior of the product. What will this product do? If you are making a cup, then that cup is supposed to hold liquid. If you design a porous cup and it cannot hold the liquid and it leaks out of it all the time, then this is not fulfilling the purpose. So the functionality which is demanded and required must be explicitly defined, and naturally all of these requirements are linked. Functional and non-functional requirements are part of the solution requirement, and as we have already said, solution requirement, it is designed around business and stakeholder requirements. Non-functional requirements describes the environmental conditions or qualities required for the product to be effective. You see, we are talking about quality here. So all those things which surround the function are the non-functional requirements. How good or bad something has to be. This is the quality. Transition requirement. Yes, Adil.
So just to highlight that I am right now pretty confused between quality requirements and this non-functional requirement. So I'm hoping that in further slides it will be further more clarified.
Yes, it will be, but basically, uh, okay, let me explain it in a way. I hope we have talked about little about quality assurance and quality control, and you have a fairly good idea from your PMP knowledge also what is quality assurance and quality control. You
Yes.
understand that a requirement, every requirement has some functional portion and some non-functional portion. I mean each and every feature. The
Agree.
if I'm to make a table, the length of the table, how much should be the length of the table? You say it should be 3 feet long. This is one requirement. This is one specification. Now, how would you know that this is really 3 feet long? The quality of the specification being met is the non-functional requirement, is the quality requirement. So how do you assure that this is really 3 feet long? Tell me.
So after performing the quality control on it.
No, let's forget about quality control. I am just generally asking you, client says that this should be 3 feet long. How are you going to ensure that this is really 3 feet long?
Once it's prepared, after measuring it, I can show the customer that it's 3 feet long, or I can mention, and before manufacturing it, I can mention it in the specification that it should be 3 feet long.
Okay, but 3 feet long is just the functional requirement,
Yes,
right? You create a
yes.
table which has a length of 3 feet long and customer rejects it.
Okay, because of some other reasons.
No, this reason, exactly this reason. He says this is not 3 feet long and you say it is 3 feet long. What is the problem? Where is the problem?
Because we have mutually we have not agreed the threshold limit or
Exactly.
the variance. We both can agree to it.
Exactly. That threshold limit is the non-functional requirement.
Okay,
Understand my point?
agreed.
The
Yes.
specification is functional and that is the quality, how good it should be. Now it all is, if the beauty is in the eye of beholder. Customer is the best judge what he wants. But the interesting part is customer may define the functional requirements, but customer is unable to define the non-functional requirements. He says,
Okay.
I told you to make it 3 feet long, but this is not exactly 3 feet long. You say, sir, it is 3 feet long. Now, your perception and his perception are different. You are measuring it from your quality standard, which says that, uh, 1 millimeter plus minus is no problem. But customer is measuring it with the precision tools, and he says it should be exactly 3 feet. And what does that exactly mean? how much can he tolerate? He cannot tolerate 1 millimeter plus or minus. How much can he tolerate? You have to clarify this from the customer. He may not be able to explain it. He should say, no, it should be more accurate. It should be more accurate. How much more accurate? So you have to agree on a tolerance limit that 0.01 plus minus 0.01 millimeter plus minus is okay with me. So that will be the non-functional requirement, and that would speak of the quality of the product. Now you got it?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I got this. I'm clear with this non-functional requirement, the quality required.
Exactly. Now coming over to the transition requirement, it describes the temporary capability such as data conversion, training requirements, operational changes needed to transition from the current state to the future state. Right? Existing system which is run by the customer was, say, a manual system. Now you have created a software which is to be implemented there. That is the future state. So how this transition will take place, how this equipment, this software will be installed, how will it get to the site, how will it be installed, how will the people be trained on using it, and how will it become operational. All these requirements are the transition requirements. Got it?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then there are other requirements also. These are just few we have mentioned. The other requirements are project requirements and quality requirements. These requirements are not part of the business analysis effort. These are project requirements and quality requirements. This is the project. This is to deal with the project management. This has nothing to do with the business analysis. This is the requirements for better managing a project or for maintaining the quality of work in the project. They are part of the project work. They could be delegated to a business analyst. You can, ask the expertise of business analyst, his help in determining those requirements, but this is basically the responsibility of project manager. Since these types are outside of the scope of the business analysis, they are not discussed in business analysis practice guide. You will find these two requirements, project requirements and quality requirements, in PMBOK, but here they are not discussed any further.
Okay.
Now the project requirements, just for the definition sake, and the quality requirements, PMI says all the actions, processes or other conditions the project needs to meet. So this is related with the work or the process. These requirements focus on the aspects of project execution, how the job should be done. Quality requirements as per PMBOK 5th edition is a condition or capability that will be used to assess conformance by validating the acceptability of an attribute for the quality of a result. Meaning, quality assurance and quality control fall into the domain of quality requirements. These two things will ensure the quality is met. Customer is not really asking you to do these quality requirements. He just wants his business requirement met, and naturally he has a user acceptance criteria. Quality control is your internal business. Therefore, you have two checks, two inspections. One is a quality control inspection and other is a scope validation inspection. In scope validation, it is basically checked according to the customer user acceptance. So these are all the requirements and the types. Quality of service.
Sir, can I see the last slide?
Yes, please.
Sir, can I see the last slide?
This one.
The previous one.
Transition requirements.
Yes. Okay, sir.
Okay, move on.
Yes.
Okay, quality of service requirement. In business analysis, non-functional requirements are often referred to as quality of service requirements. Now you understand, non-functional requirements are the quality of service requirements. Quality of service requirements are not quality requirements. Quality of service requirements describe the quality of the product, while a quality requirement describes the quality characteristics of a project deliverable. There is a fine difference. The quality requirements are within the project, and that talks about the deliverable of the project only. Whereas the non-functional requirement is the quality of service requirement, which is the quality of the overall product. This is because customer asked for the product, that product should have these things. Now, the project deliverables could be many other things which make up that product, and you are supposed to ensure that every deliverable, every part of the whole product is of good quality. If I am making a bottle, that will be shaping the bottle, making a label, making a cap over it, and packaging it and all that. So each one of these processes might be yielding a product. The cap of the bottle is our product, is our project deliverable. The bottle itself is a project deliverable. The label around it is a project deliverable. So each project deliverable will be checked through quality control. But once they are all put together into the shape of a final product, that will be finally inspected by scope validation and passed from the project, and this is the shape of the product which is to be handed over to the customer, and customer is expecting a quality of service requirement fulfillment. To avoid any confusion here, we use the term non-functional requirements when referring to requirements concerning the product quality conditions. So if we are talking about the quality of the product within the project, when the project is being done, quality of the product from the business analyst point of view, then that would be called non-functional requirements.
Sir, I found this slide to be a very tricky one.
Yes, it is. It is.
So can we go once again with this slide, because I'm a bit confused and bit lost,
Okay.
but not completely lost. Not
Right. You should look at it from two perspectives. One is the business analysis perspective, which handles the customer requirement directly, which handles the customer. So what he has to deliver to the customer, he has to deliver him the finished product. And
okay.
what he has to ensure to the customer, as if that finished product is acceptable to the customer, is the quality of service requirement. So whatever the quality customer wants from the finished product is called quality of service requirement, or this is the non-functional requirement. Now, creating that product in a project, we have gone through a number of steps and processes. Each activity or process created a part of that deliverable, but not the whole deliverable, and that was ultimately consolidated into the finished product. Anything passing out of the project would be the finished product. Within the project, the parts, when they are being checked for quality assurance and quality control, the work which is checked for quality assurance, the parts of the product which are being, the deliverables, they are being checked for quality control, and then they are being unified. Their system testing is carried out. All this exercise is within the gambit of the project quality. So even the author of this book has realized that there is a confusion, and that's why in the last sentence, to avoid any confusion, we use the term non-functional requirements when referring to requirements concerning the product quality condition, that is the finished product. So if you are looking at it from the business analysis point of view, then we are dealing with the quality of service requirement or the non-functional requirement. When we look at it from the project perspective, we are looking at the quality requirement, which includes the assurance and control both.
Okay, sir.
Coming over to the requirement documents. In some organizations, requirements are managed by having separate requirement documents created for each type of requirement. Now, this is not a must that you will always have it that way, but we have varied types of requirements, and there might be a possibility that you have to define all those requirements separately. But in a simple project, there might be only one basic requirement document, and only the specifications are mentioned there. But a detailed document, which is usually used for a complex project, may define each of the requirements separately in that document. These requirements may also exist in one document, separated by document sections, or they could be separate requirement documents. There could be a separate business requirement document, a separate stakeholder requirement document, and so on and so forth. Or that could be a fat book with, sections for each of those requirements. When requirements are managed with the requirements management tool, the requirement type is characteristic of the requirement that is determined when the requirement is added to the online repository. If you are keeping the requirements in a database, then you can classify one of the fields as the type or category of the requirement, and I say it is a customer requirement, so I keep a code C for that. So all the requirements of the customer would start with a C. So that can be indexed better, and that can be queried in the database more formally. If you only want to look at the stakeholder requirements, only the stakeholder requirements will come up. If you want to sort them, you can sort them. So this is a matter of database management. So requirements should be coded in such a way that if there are more than one requirement documents, all the requirements could be accessed when and where required. Regardless of how the types are managed, it is important to ensure that requirement types covered by the project are identified in the business analysis planning and properly addressed during elicitation and analysis activities. So this is all the job of the project of the business analyst, that even before the project starts, he will have catered for these requirement documents in his business analysis planning, and when he is collecting the data, eliciting, analyzing the data, so at that stage he will be doing that. So these are the requirements documents. Yes, please. Are you okay till now?
Sir, I just lost your last sentences because I cannot hear you.
I'll go back to the previous slide. We were talking about the requirements documents. We said we had a number of types of requirements. There is a possibility that each type of requirement is developed into a separate requirement document. Or it is also possible that we can put all the requirement documents together and call it one requirement document where each section addresses a different type of requirement. This much you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when requirements are managed with a requirement management tool, it is talking about an automated tool, a software, a database. So how can you take account of different types of requirements in a database? Like, there are 10 stakeholder requirements, there are 20 business requirements, there are 12 um, functional requirements, and so on and so forth. So all those requirements, how are you going to put in a database? Naturally, you will put a separate code for each type. And based on that code, you will be able to analyze them, query them, sort them, or get any analytical results out of the database. If you just want to see the stakeholder requirements, you can give instruction to the computer, show me only those requirements with the code of stakeholder. So this is a simple matter of database. This is also understood.
Yes, sir.
Last point is, regardless of how the types are managed, it is important to ensure that requirement types covered by the project are identified in the business analysis planning and properly addressed during elicitation and analysis activities. So it does not matter how these different types of requirements will be met or managed, but it is important that those types are properly identified when the business analysis were carried out, when the requirements were being collected and the activities were being analyzed. That is a time all the requirements must have been properly identified and all the types must have been covered there. If while collecting the requirements you were not keeping a record of what type of requirement this is, then it will be lost in the database. It will not have a code for that specific type. So whenever you collect a requirement, you tag it with the requirement type or the requirement code. That's okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, the last topic is the structure of the practice guide, and we have already seen it in a way when we were discussing the ECO, that is examination content outline, but here we will look at it from another angle, and that is from the perspective of the practice guide. So the practice guide organizes the work of business analysis in 5 domains. We don't call any knowledge areas or process groups here. Here we just say domains as it was in the examination content outline. So we will keep calling these the domains, 5 domains. These domains were defined originally as part of the conceptual framework identified through a role delineation study completed for PMI in 2013. So when PMI carried out this study, they found that a professional business analyst should have these capabilities, or he should have expertise in these areas, in these domains. So the 5 domains of business analysis practice are identified by the role definition study are: number 1 is the need assessment, 2 is planning, 3 is analysis, 4 is traceability and monitoring, and 5 is evaluation. And now we will talk about each one of them, one after the other. Before that, let's see, these domains are reflected in section 2 through 6 of this practice guide. So you can say after this first introduction chapter of the first section, there are 5 more sections in the book. And each section addresses one area, one domain. To minimize the confusion between the planning that occurs in the project management and the planning that occurs in the business analysis, section 3 in this practice guide is titled Business Analysis Planning. We are not just calling it planning like, in project management, we said planning process group. So we are not calling it planning, we are calling it business analysis planning to differentiate it from the planning process group of project management. Section 4 here is titled Requirement Elicitation and Analysis to more appropriately reflect the work being performed in the domain, which includes requirement elicitation tasks as well as requirement analysis tasks. It was very much possible that these two items, elicitation and analysis, could have been made as separate domains. But because these two jobs are done simultaneously, like like in PMBOK, when we are estimating the resources, we are also estimating the durations and also estimating the cost. So these things have to be done in synchronously. So therefore, requirement elicitation and analysis have been made as a separate domain and is covered in section 4 of the practice guide. Section 2 discusses the business analysis work that is conducted to analyze a current business problem or opportunity and to assess the current internal and external environments of the organization for the purpose of understanding what needs to occur in order to attain the desired future state. You see, if you are happy with what is happening in your organization, the system is running smoothly, it is a state-of-the-art system when you designed it, and therefore that system will not require any change. Whenever an organization realizes that they need to change, that decision is based on this business analysis work. Maybe when we designed this organization, when we created this organization, the procedures we have developed and created were the state-of-the-art procedures. But over the period of time, the systems have changed, technology has changed, market demand has changed, customer needs have changed. There are technological advancements in the industry. So you can't keep sticking to that old state-of-the-art kind of thing, but you have to now change over to the new state-of-the-art. So the previous obsolete kind of scenario which you were using earlier is said the current position or current state, or in some cases in business analysis, if you have done business process re-engineering, in business process re-engineering we call it as is status. As is status is your current status. And
Sir, I can't hear you now.
Ji?
I can't hear your last sentences.
Okay. I was talking about the current state and the desired future state. What your organization is today is the current state of the organization. In whatever way it is organized, whatever procedures and policies it is following, but that is your operation. You only need to change your operation when this is not in alignment with the environment, it is not in alignment with the technology, market need, or some other business need. That is when you realize that you need to change from your current state and improve it to a desired future state. If you have any experience in business process re-engineering, we call it as is and to be status. As is and to
So
be.
we call it?
As is, as is. Didn't get it? As is your current state and to be is your future state, is your desired state. You get it? Yes, Lil? Okay, right. So as is your current state and to be is your desired future state, and naturally uh, if we have to live in continuously progressive world, we have to change our ways. We cannot keep running an organization on the same old procedures which were used thousands of years ago. Although they may look traditional, but at the same time, we need to convert to and align ourselves to the latest technology, latest needs, latest environments. You see, there was a time when people were many feet long, 20 feet long. Now we don't have that kind of people. People had enormous strength. Today's person, today's man doesn't have enormous strength. So we have to change accordingly. Organizations change accordingly. Business analyst is the person who keeps smelling what needs to be changed. What in the current status of the organization is no more aligned with the outside world, the technology, or any other need. So if he feels that there is an area within the system of the organization which can be improved, that is where he carries out, he feels a business need and he carries out a business case study. And through that business case, he sees the feasibility of moving from current state or as is state to the future, desired future state or to be state. So this was the whole story of how changes come in the organizations. Some of this work may be undertaken by the business analyst before a project is proposed, and some of it is done during the project and after the project. So before the project has taken birth, business analyst was already busy in smelling the business need and creating the business case and all that. So he was already on job, and project only came into being when it was found feasible, it was suitable to change, when the decision to change has been taken. Only then you start a project. So you see, uh, you might have heard about and studied change management, organizational change management. Basically, we are talking about that. Why should an organization change? I have given you the reason. How should the organization change? The existing system, the operational system, has no capacity or capability of changing itself. It is governed by the standard operating procedures. Every work which is done in an organization, in operational environment, is done through following a standard operating procedure, and if somebody does not follow the standard operating procedure, this is criminal for in that organization, and that person may be liable to punishment. So this is such a strong thing. So a person who is subservient to the SOP, can he change the system or the procedure himself? He can't change it. So we need to develop a separate team who will be responsible for analyzing it, and later on there should be a separate team for making it happen, for doing it. And the doing part is the project management. The thinking and analyzing part is the business analysis. Do you get me?
Yes, sir.
So is it right if I say that any change in an organization can only be brought through organizational project management? Every change will go through a project management. Whether it is
Yes, it will be right.
program management, it is portfolio management. That's why I use the word organizational project management, which is not really used in this practice guide, but the underlying thought is that organizational project management is responsible for bringing change to the organization, because the operational system is incapable of bringing any change. Operational system is bound by the SOPs, and it cannot deny or defy the SOPs. But when a procedure changes through a project or program, that procedure is amended into the SOPs of the organization. After the transition has taken place, the SOPs will change. According to the new equipment, new procedures will be introduced. So amendments to SOP will occur after a project or program has successfully been completed and transitioned. Okay, Jit, so far so good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, section 2 further explains the business analysis tasks, and these are understanding the goals and objectives of the organization. This is something we always keep harping on. We cannot do anything which is not in alignment with the organizational goals and objectives. I just can't, being a business analyst, I just can't be so creative that I can say that to hell with the organizational goals and objectives, I will devise new goals and objectives. You can't do that. You have to be subservient to something, and that something is the organizational goals and objectives. Whatever you are doing, they are actually for the betterment or for the fulfillment of the organizational goals and objectives. So far, I'm not talking about a project. I'm just talking about the idea. If business analysis dreams of something that this should be changed, he must first see whether this is uh, in alignment with the goals and objectives of the organization or not. That is the first litmus test he has to carry out. When he is satisfied, yes, yes, change which I am thinking about is very much in alignment with the goals and objectives of the organization, then is the time when he starts defining the problem or the opportunity. What has he seen? What he thinks? So what is the problem? Which of the processes have gone old, or which is the opportunity which we must exploit? So he will define the problem and the opportunities. After he has defined that, he moves on to the assessment of the current capabilities of the organization. It is kind of an X-ray he takes of the existing position or condition of the organization. Meaning what? He creates a as-is plan, as-is process diagram, how the things are happening in the organization currently. Then he defines the desired future state, where we want to be and how would it look like. So there, in business process reengineering, we have as-is flowchart or process diagram and a to-be process diagram. And between these two process diagrams, there is a gap. So we do the gap analysis, and this is the next step. Identify the capability gaps. We do the gap analysis, and then we think how we can move from our current status to our future state. So this contribute to the development of the business case. And if business case is developed, that means the idea you thought as a business analyst is viable. And why are you doing it? Business case is for the purposes of proposing viable options that will enable the organization to meet its business objectives. Ji Adil.
Sir, I'm just asking a question that the slides which you are presenting right now and the slide which was uploaded has a difference in slides. So is there any specific reason for that?
I don't know, uploaded, it should be the same. I think I uploaded the same, but if it is not the same, then I'll send this file again to you. I'll change it from the base, and you can download it again.
Yeah, I was just asking this question because there's a lot of text written in the provided slides, and the slides which you are presenting has the bullets.
Okay,
So your slides are more comfortable rather than those.
I understand. I understand. Okay, the slides I've given you are actually the extracts of the practice guide.
Okay.
So if you want
Okay.
these slides, I'll give you these slides.
Yeah, I need these slides because I now whatever you are teaching me right now, I'm getting the comfort level with these slides. So
Exactly.
I can, after reading a single point, I can relate what you have shared me and what you have taught me.
Exactly.
Right?
You see how difficult it is to read from a standard or a practice guide, and
Yeah.
I'm saying the same things, but I'm breaking it down into more comfortable bits. I'm not adding anything at all. I'm just talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I agree to this. This is the art.
So the next thing on the list is this second. We are still talking about section 2. This section presents various techniques for analyzing and assessing the organization, as well as valuation techniques for assessing the viability. So there are two sections. Number one is analyzing and assessing the organization as if we can create a current state of the organization. Valuation techniques are for what purpose? We want to see what are the viable options available to us. How can we resolve this issue? How can we, change the current status to the future status? So this was as far as the section 2 was concerned. Section 3 discusses the work that is conducted in order to define the business analysis approach and plan for the completion of requirements related activities necessary to meet the needs of the project. So what we have done in section 2, we have gone through these steps. We said we understand the goals and objectives, we define the problem and opportunities, we assess the current capabilities, we define the desired future state, we identify our capability gap, and then we contribute to the development of the business case. Just let me, okay. So the section 3 will be talking about the approaches and the plan, and section 3 is basically the planning. It discusses the use of stakeholder analysis. It discusses the selected project life cycle, and these two things, let's talk about them one by one. Use of stakeholder analysis. Why are we trying to do that? Because there was an idea as a business analyst, I dreamed of something and I have done my job as far as the analysis need assessment is concerned. Now that the need assessment has been done, I have to plan it. So I have to get back to the stakeholders and complete a thorough assessment of the stakeholders now who will be participating in the business analysis effort. It discusses all the process decisions and planning activities that are recommended for constructing an optimal business analysis plan for the project. Now I am carefully planning, I am discussing, I am talking to the stakeholders and taking a note. I am thoroughly assessing as if none of the stakeholders' expectation is missed out. And after this discussion of all these process decisions and planning activities, now this is my responsibility to recommend how to do this, how to create this business analysis plan in the most optimal method. Optimal is there is no waste. We are working only focused on the productivity. So this section also discusses about the selected project life cycle. Now, what does the selected project life cycle does? It influences the timing and approach to business analysis planning and describes how the approach will be different based on the life cycle chosen. Project life cycle, different organizations may have different project life cycles. Or for that matter, sometimes project to project, you can have different life cycles. I would recommend that you study project life cycle portion from PMBOK. Probably it is in second chapter. Project life cycle is very, described very well and in detail there. This cannot address in that much detail. So you remember project life cycle could be a life cycle which is governed by the industry. It could be a standardized life cycle by the organization. Let us look at the standardized life cycle. Say your organization is a software development company which only works in web development projects. And even in the web development projects, you only work for static websites. So you have pretty much found your niche. You are experts of this job and you have created a standard project life cycle that all the projects in our organization will be divided into 5 phases, and this will be the name of the phases. These are pre-decided life cycles. Now, if we are working in this kind of organization, we do not have a lot of flexibility because everything is being governed by whatever the selected life cycle is. Therefore, my business analysis planning options would be restricted by the project life cycle. I hope I could make this point understandable.
Yes.
So, and in other organizations, there might be, industry might be dictating what kind of life cycle. Maybe you are doing a IT project and industry says that you must use a spiral model. So you are using that life cycle. So whatever life cycle, or iterative life cycle, or if there is, you are doing agile kind of a thing. So it describes how the approach will be different based on the life cycle chosen. So this is your business analysis planning, which we will discuss in a complete section later on. Fourth section is about the requirements elicitation and analysis. It discusses the iterative nature of the work performed. What is the iterative nature? Like if you look at
Again and again.
again and again, you see, we identify stakeholders and we analyze them and we then start engaging them. But what we do is we keep identifying stakeholders throughout the life of the project, and all of this process is repetitive in nature. Similarly,
Yes.
we identify risks and we keep identifying risks throughout the life
Yes.
of the project. So these are the iterative work. So why we perform them? As if we can plan, prepare and conduct these requirement elicitations, as well as, and this job of collecting the requirements, collecting the information from the stakeholders is continuous. It does not finish. It is iterative nature. And after that we analyze and document these results. So whenever there is a change in requirement, we will have to iterate the whole process yet again. Number of elicitation and analysis techniques are defined and explained. And you will be pleased to know that most of the techniques used in business analysis are the same you already know about in project management. Because you see, all kinds of managements have similar techniques. So business analysis, many of the techniques of project management are, for that matter, of general management, are applicable to business analysis as well. Examples are also included to provide context and describe how to practically apply these techniques on the projects. Different forms of requirement documentation choices are discussed and guidelines for writing high quality requirements are provided. So where do we write the requirement document? In this section, in this domain. Requirement elicitation and analysis is the most elaborate domain in business analysis, where we actually write down all these things. So guidelines for writing high quality requirements are provided in this chapter. Large percentage of project time is spent in elicitation and analysis, because if you look at closely, this is the main job of the business analyst. This is the main job: planning, elicitation and analysis. Therefore this section provides a thorough explanation of concepts in order to help practitioners better perform in these areas. Then is the traceability and monitoring, that is section 5. It covers comprehensive set of activities for approving requirements. That is the user acceptance, how the user acceptance will be done. And also it addresses how to manage changes to the requirements throughout the project lifecycle. Changes are also continuous in nature and iterative in nature. So we are doing two things here. First of all, how to improve the requirements, we are providing a complete set of activities for that. And secondly, how to manage requirements, changes to the requirements throughout the project lifecycle. The benefits associated with capturing requirement attributes and building a traceability metrics for a project are discussed in detail in this chapter. I hope I described the requirement traceability matrix, and it is also defined in PMBOK. Project manager also creates a traceability matrix. Traceability matrix is something which allocates various attributes of the requirements, and it creates a chain. For example, the chain is whose requirement is this? What is the requirement? If you look at it from project management point of view, next point in chain is to fulfill this requirement, what activities are to be done. And each activity will produce what and how will it ultimately yield into the end product. So if a requirement changes are eliminated or new requirement is introduced, the whole data in this log has to be amended or changed or created. So this is a kind of a log or a matrix where we can find the complete trace of from where the requirement has come and how this requirement is to be fulfilled. This is called the requirement traceability matrix. This section also provides a formal requirements change process, how the requirements changes to the requirements can take place, and discusses how changes to requirements are analyzed, assessed, approved, communicated, and managed throughout the project. Baselining requirements, impact analysis, configuration management, and version control are also addressed. And I hope none of these items is strange to you. You know baselining, you know impact analysis, you know configuration management and version control.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I agree that I know all these things.
Good. Additionally, considerations for a streamlined approach to traceability and monitoring are noted. We must have a completely transparent system, a well-oiled system. Your traceability and monitoring procedures and approaches should be so well organized that you should not be facing any problem. So we need to streamline our approach. Last but not the least is the section 6, and that is about solution evaluation. This chapter discusses business analysis tasks that are performed to validate a solution that is either implemented or ready to be implemented. So a solution is evaluated here. This section focuses on both the qualitative and quantitative evaluation method. And I hope you are clear about what is qualitative and what is quantitative from our discussion or for that matter from PMP knowledge on stakeholders and risk management. Both use qualitative and quantitative evaluation methods. It discusses how,
Yes, sir.
yes,
Yes, sir, I agree that I have gone through with the qualitative and quantitative evaluation methods, but I would request if you can repeat it for me.
of course we will, of course, because the whole chapter is devoted to that. And we will be
Okay.
discussing each and everything.
Okay.
So this discusses how evaluation criteria and acceptance levels are used to perform an evaluation of the solution. how well the solution is designed. Discusses work performed to evaluate, analyze, and report on the evaluation results. So this is kind of, as we used to carry out the analysis of plan against the work performed. So first we have the criteria established, and then we are looking at what has been done. We evaluate the performance of the project, of the whole process.
All right, sir. I'm good to go.
Fine. Oops. I think it was the last slide and it crashed. Let me get it up again. Just a moment.
Yes, please.
Yeah, this was the last slide, and tell me when it becomes visible to you.
All right, sir.
Okay, only one sentence is written here. A number of evaluation techniques are defined and examples are shared to demonstrate the practical application of their use. So that's what it is. Evaluation techniques we will discuss in the last chapter with examples and demonstration of the practical thing. And that's about all what we have to cover today. And we are done with chapter 1. So
All right. Sir, so far so good. Things are pretty clear because it was a chapter 1. I've got some points which I've been observing in past 4 sessions. Number 1, do you recommend me that I should come with some sort of preparation before attending the session? And if yes, then what should I read before coming to the session?
Actually, yes, of course, you must read the practice guide of business analysis. The portion which we have to cover on the next day, you must come prepared with that. With that, at least read through it, because once you have read it, it will be very easy for you to understand when I'm speaking. But now also there is no problem. You can still understand the things, but maybe we have to do extra effort. We can go faster if you have read it already. So tomorrow,
Okay,
we
sir.
can go through chapter 2, some almost 1/3 or half of chapter 2 you can read, and we can discuss that tomorrow.
Okay, sir, I guess tomorrow I'm not planned for the session.
Okay.
Practically, if is it possible if I inform you somewhere in first half that I'm available or I'm not available?
No, there is no problem. We can break for tomorrow. That will be a relaxation for me as well. So we can break for tomorrow and we can meet day after.
Yes, basically looking at the days, I've already scheduled some of my other stuff, some of my personal stuff or
Of
some
course.
commitment
Of course.
on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So, but as we have discussed yesterday, so I'm just trying to make some arrangements that I should start having the sessions on any Friday or Saturday or Sunday. So this week you have to bear with me. So I'll be informing you, say 3 to 4 hours earlier that I'm available from 3 to 5 slot, yes or no. Okay. So
Okay.
if you're available, then we can proceed, and if you are not, then we can plan for our usual days.
Okay.
This is one thing. So there is one more request that the payment I've made, I need a receipt for it.
Okay.
So is it, because as you have shared your calendar with me, I've shared it with my seniors. So
Okay.
they have shown, they have asked me the feedback. So I just told them that the session is being currently conducted.
Okay.
So they show the interest that if my organization or some other people, they want to enroll for some other sessions.
Okay.
So
Wonderful.
I just want the receipt of the invoice, so
Okay.
I can also show if they are going to offer to other people. So I
Mm.
can also ask them that they should reimburse me. This is why I'm asking you this invoice.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
I'll
uh,
send you that. Do you want an electronic copy?
yes, sir, it will suffice.
Okay.
Electronic copy will suffice. No
Okay.
worries.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Okay, so my last question is that I'm still stuck with this Rita thing. You have been telling me that there will be a tax and everything if I ordered myself a single book. Where I am confused if I am going to, what so far I've just proceeded to the checkout page, and
Mm.
it is only asking me for the DHL charges. So
Okay. What you do
um,
is you try it out yourself. You try it out yourself. But what I know of is that once you check out, they will they will tell you to contact me. This has been happening before. Anybody who tries to order from there, they say, okay, contact our Pakistani rep because there are extra charges on that. You try yourself. If it works
uh,
out, that is very good. If it doesn't, then you contact me and then we'll look into it.
yeah, but while I'm trying, they are taking my credit card
Yeah,
credentials.
let them take it.
So
Let them take it if they
okay.
accept it and you can get it in much cheaper rate. Why not? Well, you should do it.
The rates are the same more or less. They are charging me around 20 in 28, 20,
Yeah,
20. They are
actually,
charging me 28 almost.
exactly. And when the book, the book will reach you, there will be some other taxes from the local customs department also. They may or may not be. You know, sometimes custom people, what they do is they do random checking. So
Okay.
your DHL or TSS guy, they have some understanding with them. So what they do is they, for small packages, they have a fixed rate. So that fixed rate they will charge you. But if the custom guy says no, there is a CD in it and I will not leave it and this and that, they can put more taxes on it.
Okay. So you are informing me. So I was not offering. I was not taking that CD. I was going online. Or I was ordering only a book and hot topic. So still there are chances that custom guy can go for this. Okay.
Yeah, this is a small package and I hope it may work out for you.
All right, great. Things are good. So this is what I have. So I should be. I'll try to read this practice guide before coming to the session.
Okay. So what is the likelihood of tomorrow? Are we?
Truly speaking, from yes, sir.
What is the likelihood of tomorrow? Are we meeting or not? Or you will let me know later?
Sir, I'll tell you in the first half.
Okay. You leave me a SMS, huh? Or email.
Yeah, yeah. I'll WhatsApp you. Is there any problem with the WhatsApp?
No, no, not at all, not at all.
Okay, I'll WhatsApp you. No worries.
Wonderful.
Uh, okay. So, but just my last hunch, my last thing that Alhamdulillah, whatever you are telling me, I'm getting it out. Things are good, but there's only one fear that I feel that I am not being prepared for the paper. So I hope in future when we are into the details of the
Okay.
chapters,
Okay.
by then I'll be. This is something which I want.
I understand. You see, the very first thing you need to prepare for is you understand everything. You conceptually must be right. If you are conceptually right, that is the time when you start preparing on questions. But we will try that as we move ahead, we keep doing some kind of questions. But basically, the first thing is the concepts. If you are getting the
Okay.
concepts, then you will not have much problem in attempting any kind of questions.
Okay. So right now, what I'm closing the statement with is that that you are working on my concepts right now, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, son. So we should call it a day now. Thank you very much for your company,
So,
and
thank
you
you,
let
sir.
me know, and then we'll meet again. Thank you. Thank you very
Sure. Sure. Thank you, sir. Allah Hafiz.
much.